The NBA has a big problem with retaining viewers and giving their fans a reason to, watch the games. And there are dozens of reasons why this is happening. Some of it has to do with the quality and style of play, while others has more to do with the way we consume content. There are certainly multiple factors that we can point to, but we can add yet another one to the list. This is courtesy of the greatest point guard of all time, Magic Johnson. He went to the sports show Speak with Fox Sports. They were talking about the rivalries in the league today and questioning what happened to them. So he tells Paul Pierce that he didn't like Larry Bird. The Lakers and Celtics didn't like each other. He asked that this made for great TV, and people were tuning in. Not everybody's too buddy-buddy, and they're not going very hard at each other. From experience, Magic can say how important rivalries are to the league. He was there when he was playing in the finals, and the games were tape delayed. For the first 3 finals, in 1980, 1982, and 1983, he would play a game, and nobody outside the arena knew what happened. It wasn't until the 1984 finals that the games were starting to be televised live. That series changed everything. On one end, the history between the Lakers and Celtics played a part in the hype surrounding that series. But that wasn't enough. It was a rivalry between Bird and Magic that really set the stage for the most important finals matchup in league history. This wasn't something that was created by the media. As Magic stated, they truly didn't like each other. That was genuine. People could sense the animosity they had towards each other. And that made the games much more interesting, much more entertaining to watch. It's no accident that the league took off after that. Throughout the 80s, 90s, and 2000s, there were dozens upon dozens of rivalries that we saw come and go. We all have our favorite ones. In my case, growing up as a Lakers fan, I got up to watch regular season matchups between the Blazers, Spurs, Kings, Suns, and later the Celtics. It's the same reason why you watch the Bulls and the Pistons, the Knicks and the Pacers, the Celtics and the Sixers, and so forth. We knew that those games would be super competitive, playoff intensity basketball, and maybe, if we were lucky, we would catch a fight. All those players could attest that they didn't like each other. And that wasn't a secret to anyone. We all knew they didn't like each other. They weren't scared to call each other out in public. Example, I remember when Shaq called Sacramento the Queens, or when Kobe Bryant said to Roger Bell that he wasn't hugged enough as a child. But now, the players are scared to say anything controversial. It's all about giving each other their flowers and not letting the big bad media twist my words and create this hate and division between the players. The stars of the league have become bad impressions of football coaches. They have nothing interesting to say. They're too PR prepped. And notice that I said stars of the league. Patrick Beverley calling Chris Paul a cone or Dylan Brooks calling LeBron old doesn't hold the same weight. Because when they play each other, these legends inevitably outplay these role players, so it's anticlimactic. I brought those players up for a reason. When the 1984 finals had become this huge event, if the animosity was between Gerald Henderson and Magic Johnson, no one would care. The fact that these two giants were battling each other and they weren't scared to show negative feelings toward each other made that series so iconic. It started with them. Then it trickled down to the rest of the players. It got to the point where you had Kevin McHale clotheslining Kurt Rambis. Then Magic brought up the All-Star game, that he hated the East, and he didn't want his East rivals to have one over him. Then Paul Pierce comes in and said that there are certain players, like Kobe, who force you to play hard because he was coming for you. That responsibility shouldn't come from role players. It should come from the stars of the league. That is what the fans want to see. Even the expressionless Tim Duncan made it known that he didn't like the Lakers. If he's showing more passion than you had a problem. You could sense Magic's competitive nature when he was talking. Even though he's 28 years removed from the league, he still has that today. And he was obviously disappointed with the lack of competitiveness the star players have. That is what creates rivalries. It's not that you have to hate the player you're facing as a person. It was rarely personal. Unless you're dealing with someone like, Bill Laimbeer. That's different. Everyone hated him because he's just a terrible person. Other than that, it was a player's extremely competitive nature that brought so many classic battles. If you remove that element, you get these professional pickup games that even diehard fans don't want to watch. Every so often, you want to get a taste of the playoffs in the regular season. That's what these rivalries are for. It gives you a reason to watch a game in January. That's why I would watch those dreaded Knicks and Heat games back in the 90s and early 2000s. The quality of those games from a basketball perspective was not great. Don't let your memory fool you. But we were drawn by their passion and the intensity of those games. If you take that away, and everyone's just waiting for the playoffs to start. Magic couldn't explain why players now are so soft in that aspect. It's hard to pinpoint one thing because there are many factors that happen inside and outside the league. He brought up AAU very briefly. I have zero knowledge of AAU because honestly I could care less about AAU basketball. So I can't add anything there. But there is one thing that I can say is an issue, and that's player movement. Let me explain. Every so often, we'll get an intense playoff series, and we think for a moment, I think we got something here. And then one of the star player leaves, and that's the end of that. Case in point, the Cavaliers and the Warriors. That was the last great rivalry of the NBA. We're talking LeBron versus Curry. The games were intense. They were even trolling each other. After the 2016 finals, dude, we had something. Then KD came and screwed everything up. But it's not all his fault. He has said plenty of times that he would never consider going to Golden State if Curry and Draymond practically begged him to come. That's when Curry should have stepped in and said, no, we don't need him. I can take LeBron. I've done it once, and I can do it again. They wanted the easy way out, and that's the least competitive thing that I've ever seen from an all-time great player. And the players have simply followed their example. So the reality is that rivalries live and die with the star player. If they switch teams, they don't take the rivalries with them. Since their new team has no history with them, there isn't any pent-up animosity that spills onto the court. It's just any other game. And that's basically what we see year after year. So that's personally what I miss from the NBA. Would that fix the league? Probably not. But it would be a good start.